human life. When you receive, you must pay. If you have given but have not received in the mortal world, then you will undoubtedly receive in your next life or in heaven. Otherwise, the universe would be unfair and untrue. Everything has its destiny. The total energy in the universe is constant. This is consistent with the law of the conservation of energy and of matter. In terms of philosophy, yin cannot exist without yang, and yang cannot grow without yin. Yin and yang are the law and order of the changes of all things, Huangdi Neijing. As we know from the water on the earth, regardless of the surging rivers brought on by rainstorms or the increase of snow cover on mountaintop, its total volume remains constant. It is destiny. This is to say that the quantity of life in the universe is constant. It increases here but decreases there. It rises here but falls there. Well then, where does the increase in human population come from? Are new lives born out of thin air? People who have explored and studied anything about reincarnation know that human reincarnation happens several days before birth. Therefore, an embryo or fetus does not contain life. It can only be called life when a reincarnated soul enters into it. Thus, we know that a new life will only be born when an old one passes on. There is no life without death and no death without life. That is it. In this case, we know that the increased life on the earth must have come from somewhere. If a new life is born, then an old one must have ended. If we analyze carefully, we may wonder about the many animals on the earth that have died. Where have they gone? Have they become human? Where will their lives go if the earth has a mass extinction in the future? Please refer to 36-dimensional space for the answers. Philosophical dialectics can guide our lives. We have just discussed how to guide our lives by philosophy from the perspective of philosophy. This enlightenment is only the tip of the iceberg. You may draw general conclusions about other cases from specific ones. I hope that each one of you will lead a smart life and that you will have wonderful life prospects. 人生是一场幻象. Life is but an illusion. Xiefeng. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. Illusions are phenomena that appear in dreams, fantasies, and phantasms. With further inferences, all phenomena that arise quickly, remain briefly, and then disappear equally quickly can also be thought of as illusions. Mirages are illusions, as are dreams, soap bubble patterns, and even thoughts at the end of the day or when we are bored will form them. It can be inferred that flashes and pans are illusions, a large number of cells, microbes, and fungi are illusions. Many photos online are illusions, computer games are illusions, and movies and TV shows are illusions, too. Dreams are illusions because the dream world lasts for a short time. If one dreams for 100 years continuously, would that be an illusion or reality? Of course, it would still be a dream because the moment that the person wakes up, the dream would disappear. So how could the dream not be an illusion? It can be concluded that no matter how long a phenomenon exists, as long as it disappears completely at some point, it too must be an illusion. Thus, it is possible to conclude that life is an illusion because even someone who lives for 100 years will eventually disappear altogether. So why would that be different? Having dreamed throughout the night, we wake up in the morning, and no matter how much we twisted and turned during our dreams, we no longer care about anything that happened in them because after all, they were fantasies, dreams, and illusions. A dream will not affect our mood or state of mind too much. Here is the question. Since we have deduced that life is an illusion, is it necessary to be sad for our twists and turns in life? Is it necessary to be anxious about things in our life? Is it necessary to struggle hard for things and hunger to reach goals? Is it necessary to make others behave according to our own wills? When the illusion of life disappears, will it not float away as a dream? When the earth we live on disappears completely in the infinite universe and all of humanity disappears as an illusion, what about a single person? To analyze and judge this question, I want to wake you from your dream to let you not be a human being, but rather a celestial being. When you wake up, will you still go into your dream to be nostalgic for something or to fight for someone in your dreams? Of course not, because it was an illusion, a fantasy. Well, life is also an illusion and a fantasy. So shall we be racked by people and things in this illusion? Of course not. Who remembers their grandparents' grandparents? Not to mention the fact that the memories of our grandparents' grandparents are already blurred even in the incomplete memories of our grandparents. Who will remember us 100 years after we die? We take for granted that we have importance in the present, but that is a complete illusion. Many great historical figures have died. They thought that they were important back then, but what about now? The earth goes on turning and humans go on reproducing. The footsteps of civilization never stop marching forward. So it is unnecessary to be too sad when people around us die because death is a normal phenomenon and everyone will die, including ourselves. So never be overly anxious, fearful, or sorry because it is all an illusion. Nobody can control your dream. Who can even control their own life? It is delusional to think that if you do something, you will get something. That is impossible. You cannot secure yourself against all risks and dangers. How can people control your life? You cannot wear shoes when you are supposed to be barefoot, and you cannot stay on the mountain when you are supposed to leave. Cold shoulders cannot be expected when you are thriving and on the way up. That every cloud has its silver lining may be forgotten in despair and adversity. Therefore, never force yourself to learn, suppress yourself to work, or force yourself to do what you dislike and which is against your own better judgment. No matter how successful you are, outstanding or a billionaire, or how glorious your family reputation has been flowing down through many generations, when you wake up, all will have been a dream. Affection and love tactics are the most difficult traps for people to escape. They are the most terrible traps in life. Ask the mortal world what love is. It drives one mad to death. Now think about it. Life is but an illusion. After waking up, everything will be nothing. So is it necessary to be bogged down on affection and love? It might actually be better to live as a beau, a dandy. What people fear most is losing what they own and are most attached to their property, their power and status, their reputation, and of course their most beloved lover. However, they are not at all necessary. What really belongs to you and cannot escape is yours, but if it is not yours, you cannot keep it. Any way one looks at life, it is still an illusion which can be shattered and vanish in a moment. So why make yourself suffer for it? Why not enjoy a natural and unrestrained dream? Has anyone in history been so intelligent and so powerful that they could control everything? Not one. Everyone is acting in a play. They are playing roles, following scripts. If anyone could control all things with their wisdom and power, their fortunes would be as boundless as the East China Sea, and they would live a very happy, healthy, and eternal life forever. Have there been any? Not one. This proves that man is only a grain of sand in a sandstorm, a drop of water in the sea, and that nothing can really be controlled by anyone. So why not just follow predestined relationships and take things as they come? Life will be easier and more natural. People expend a lot of time and effort on their health and appearance, yet regardless of their daily exercise and nutritious eating habits, the sick are still sick and the short-lived still come to untimely ends. No matter how much paint and powder one applies to their face or how much plastic surgery they undergo, wrinkles still creep onto the forehead and cheeks as time passes, and signs of aging become more and more visible every day. These changes cannot be resisted, so why try to fight them when you know that you cannot? Life is too short. Fiddle with this today, fiddle with that tomorrow, and remain confused. You will still get old, fade away, and die. It is a bad deal to live in fantasies, but an even worse one is to indulge them. Do you worry? What do you worry about? You were worried when you were dreaming. What about when you woke up? My point is that there is no need to worry about anything because all of life is ultimately only a dream. There are no real scenarios because life will end. Will all the worry not be gone with the wind? Enjoy the present. Do not worry about tomorrow or the next day. Everyone's life has been predetermined by their destiny, their script. Worry is useless, so why persist with this fantasy, waste your recreation time, and ruin your relaxed mood? Your state of mind is different when you are asleep than when you are awake. Sleeping people led befuddled lives in their dream worlds of obsession, worry, anxiety, sorrow, and fear. However, fully awake people know that all is but an illusion, so they have neither strong bliss nor intense grief, but are just pleasant, relaxed, and calm. Who are these people? Celestial beings, of course. Within the universe, everything is an illusion except for the greatest creator. People live in illusions because all lives are illusions. In this sense, illusions are reality. Illusions are stages of life. People live one dream after another and live a large number of dreams throughout their lives because lives consist of dreams. Although people live in illusions today, this is really the entirety of human life. Never expect to lead a real life without it being an illusion. Even the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the celestial islands continent of the Elysium world are all illusions. The differences are that those illusions are more beautiful and splendid and go on much longer. It is very clear that everything is an illusion, but most people are too stubborn, obstinate, and perverse to see them as such and are convinced that they are living in reality. When one awakens from their dreams, their soap bubbles will burst and they will say goodbye to their dream, but they will do it unwillingly and with disappointment and frustration. Knowing that life is an illusion, how does one lead a wonderful life? Whatever it is that makes you happy, joyful, free, and blessed, just do it. Follow your best judgment, have fun, then play. If something bothers you but you need to do it, make a perfunctory effort. No fun. See you later. Better yet, never see you again. 第二家园走不复古文明道路. The second home does not take the road of reverting to ancient civilizations. Xiefeng. People have created splendid cultures and invented innumerable production tools and living products. Inventions, innovations, and scientific developments have relieved us from backward and primitive production and living modes. Except for those gifts bestowed by nature, all that we enjoy today comes from those advancements. If civilization abandoned science and technology, then it would not be an advancement, but a regression. The way of the greatest creator is the way of nature. Scientific inventions and technological advancements have not gone against nature, but some have been used in irrational ways. Achievements of technological inventions and progress have gone against the ways of nature in many aspects, but the fault is not theirs. Rather, it is from people's misuse out of selfishness and greed. Cutting vegetables is a natural use for a knife, but using it to cut woods or to kill people is a misuse. The problem lies not with the knife, but rather with the person who misuses it. It would be extremely illogical to blame the knife, rather than to look into the false consciousness of the person who behaves irrationally. Would it be better to use toilet paper or clods of soil to wipe one's buttock? Of course, toilet paper is better, at least more hygienic. If a toilet paper manufacturer cuts a large amount of woods and then spills wastewater into rivers, it would not be the fault of the toilet paper, but that of the manufacturer who has ignored the result of wrong behavior by only pursuing economic profit. Some people are under the mistaken belief that the production and life mode of the second home will lead to a reversion to primitive conditions, but returning to nature does not include doing such things as eating raw animal flesh and drinking its blood, or wearing the skins and furs of animals. Rather, it means that we should live according to the will of the greatest creator, and by the principle that people need to coexist with nature harmoniously. At least we can say that people should not advance at the price of natural destruction, but according to the fundamental principle of sustainability. What we have created is a brand new civilization which will not only inherit all the positive achievements of scientific and technological development, but will also advance humanity into a more developed stage of civilization. It would not be possible for us to revert to ancient practices because although we would absorb wisdom from ancient cultures, we would not be limited by them. We would learn from their essence, but would not revert to them. Our thoughts should neither be confined to ancient ones, nor make us repeat the mistakes of our ancestors. Following in their footsteps, we need to initiate a new future and a new way of living which will avoid the recurring tracks of previous civilizations which have been destroyed completely. Religions should not stop progress, politics should not be short-sighted, economies should not destroy nature, and societies should not be reluctant to advance forward. The biggest crisis facing humanity is that of the soul. All others pale in comparison. When this crisis is eliminated, all others will disappear automatically. Do not define the second home by using concepts of old production and life modes, and do not assume that the second home will be the same as any other living mode in human history. We are walking on a new road which aligns completely with the will of the greatest creator rather than human will. It will bring happy, joyous, blessed, and free lives to people, and even allow them to evolve into celestials. I am the spiritual guide of humanity. I will lead people to an unprecedented, amazing future, and even take some to heaven. This is not a boast. As long as you follow me, you will experience it step by step. 生命绿洲模式将解决人类面临的21个难题. The mode of the new oasis for life will solve 21 difficulties that mankind is facing. Xiefeng, June 27th, 2020. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. Whether we call it Utopia, New Eden Garden, Kingdom of the Greatest Creator, or Xiefeng-style communism, Lifechanuan's new mode of production and life in the new oasis for life will solve these 21 problems that have been handed to us over thousands of years of human history. It will free women from their daily trivial chores forever. The elderly will lead their happiest lives in old age, whether they have children and receive pensions or not. The phenomenon of orphans will disappear forever. All children will lead lives full of love and care and will be well educated. The phenomena of people remaining unattached and lonely will disappear forever. Domestic violence will disappear completely. The conflicts among religions and belief systems will end forever. Political parties will have no purpose, so competitions among them will disappear. All people will be able to travel throughout the world freely and without restrictions. Military expenditures will be reduced to zero because there will be no militaries. Border and land disputes between states will no longer exist. Regional and ethnic conflicts will no longer exist and peace will abound everywhere. Drug abuse and gambling will disappear completely. Official corruption will disappear completely, as officials will have neither need nor ways to corrupt. No wealth disparities will exist as everyone will have everything yet own nothing. Courts, lawyers, and legal systems will die out gradually as they will no longer be needed. Criminal activities will be reduced by 3/4 and security will be greatly enhanced. The population will stabilize without sharp increase and decrease and will be in balance with planetary resources. Atmospheric pollution as well as that in all water and on the earth will disappear. Extinction of species will end and many lost ones will return. Climatic disasters will no longer occur and distinct seasons with consistent climate will become normal. At least half of the people will sublimate into angels, bodhisattvas, celestial beings, and Buddhas. Do not take this as a joke or myth or consider it an armchair strategy. It has been the firm evidence of Lifechanuan's theories and the model of the new oasis for life which have been existing and developing for 10 years. It is the ideal that mankind can fully realize. Whether you wish or not, and believe it or not, mankind has been bound to and is entering into the Lifechanuan era. Everything is running according to procedure. 明明巧安排平凡度人生. Life arranged ingeniously, the ordinary life. Xiefeng, March 27th, 2019. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Care. Times change, lives reincarnate with their ups and downs, and human reproduction flourishes. Time and tides annihilate emperors, generals, and ministers. Green grass invades countless palaces and pavilions. The strong disappear in an instant with their great achievements. Heroes who had once shed blood and tears are nowhere to be found. Huge amounts of wealth perish quickly like dreams. Even the rich starve to death in the wilderness. In front of desolate and dilapidated empty buildings was once bumper-to-bumper traffic. The winners were frustrated. The powerful were desolate. Fires were extinguished into ashes regardless of how fierce they might have been. Overwhelming storms returned to calmness. In life, it does not matter whether you win or lose. In the world, it does not matter whether you are right or wrong, gaining or losing. Everything is destined. Everything is a constant. We suffer from our own actions. We harvest what we sow. We are responsible for our wins and losses. The greatest creator never has special mercy for anyone and never intentionally abandons anyone. Those who exploited others will be exploited. Those who hurt others will be hurt exactly the same, not more and not less. Evil rages in the guise of justice but will be contained eventually. Self-interest is cheating and bluffing in the name of public good, but it will eventually be recalled. Advantages taken will surely be lost, and every extra gain will become a loss. Tao is never absent. Angels never leave. The devil never slackens. Prosperity ends in a big mess. Prosperous ages end in ruins. Lavish banquets end. That which flourishes dies. Phenomena will not last, but essence never changes. There are tens of thousands of ways to die. If one does not know how they will die or where they will be in 100 years, then what is the use of being busy? Why are you in a hurry? Clouds are rolling and unfolding. Flowers are blooming and falling. Rushing passers-by cannot hold anything. Lonely ghosts cannot find places in which to settle down. What are you fighting for? What annoys you? It is all a waste of energy, a waste of the meaning of life. Useless usage has great use. Power, status, reputation, money, real estate, and houses are all passing clouds, and the winner of them must be captured by the devil. The states of realm, virtue, quality, etiquette, gratitude, contentment, and courtesy are all the claims of life, so one will be blessed by heaven if one possesses them. The sum of all positive and negative energy of the universe is zero. If you gain something here, you will lose something there. Looking at heaven, looking at hell, looking at the world, everything is clear. Joy is sorrow, gain is loss, suffering is happiness, frugality is abundance. You might be eager to get what you want, but when your desire is met, misfortune will follow. You might be eager to achieve success, but when you succeed, you will suffer from it. Virtuous individuals, please listen to me. Avoid the urban noise and return to the rural countryside. Life is like a chess game, and each one is different. We cannot see it through. We cannot explore it all. Why not raise a few chickens and ducks or go to watch the full moon in a field? Pickles and steamed buns warm the stomach, and ragged clothes are like honey to the heart. The chaos of the world is not without its source. Do not go back and forth hurriedly and quarreling. It is hard to tell who is right and who is wrong when all are jollifications of knacks. A big fire will burn everything down. A flood will wash everything away. The pandemic came quietly, and man-made misfortunes are everywhere. Living today, we do not know tomorrow's situation. Something superfluous might cost your life, so why rush yourself and worry? The world is like an unsatisfactory tight dragnet, but everything is arranged ingeniously. Every detail is clear, not a word or act is wrong. Do not hate anyone, do not complain about things happening in the world. Results are what matter. Find the benevolence of the divine across 3 lifetimes. Evil things in the world are made by good people, and supremely good deeds are made by evil people. Good intentions always create trouble, and slander waits beside honor and favor. Misery. Happiness is to be found by its side. Happiness. Misery lurks beneath it. Disaster is a blessing in disguise. It is better to cultivate in the countryside, to be an ordinary person, not to be famous, not to fight for profit, but to light the sacred lamp in your heart and watch the world change. Relying on other people, one will exhaust themselves on them. So why not rely on the Tao of the greatest creator? Everyone has a life trajectory that cannot be changed, so why bother to worry about others? Parents' suffering cannot be replaced by their children's, and the children's sins cannot be negated by their parents, let alone by others. You might think that you are doing something for the good of others, but how do you know that you are not working against Tao and disturbing their trajectories? You cannot give money to others without having money in your pockets. How can you guide others to live well if you do not live well? Depend on your own experiences and feelings, and do not listen to others' moral preachings. No harm in life is greater than that which affection can do when it is deep and hurts very severely. Sentient beings are trapped in affection nets until they die in mazes of affection. If you cast your affection onto someone, then their burden will become yours. So why not direct your affection toward idyllic, green mountains and blue rivers? Attaching affection to flowers, birds, insects, and fish is more beneficial than doing so to people. How can you wash your feet while still standing in mud? How can you sever your worldly ties while still living in the world? Waves never end. Repaying debts by borrowing will keep you in debt forever. We also need to repay our debts that we borrowed from nature. The only way to eradicate debt is by giving alms formlessly. Our minds should not abide in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharma, but should abide nowhere. This mind abiding nowhere is our true mind, which is nature, Buddha, angels, and celestials. Looking throughout the world, the best place for life is the new oasis for life. 审视一下自己是不是赌徒. Check if you are a gambler. Xiefeng, May 22nd, 2020. Translated by Chinyu and edited by Care. Do you gamble? Check this out. What is a gambler? It is anyone who wants to win rich rewards by betting their money, youth, future, and life on uncertain things which they self-identify as certainty. Gamblers lose everything that they begin with, including the clothes on their backs. Eventually, are there any who earn good lives by gambling? Casino dealers can do very well, but they are not really gambling because the games are all stacked in their favor, but most people who participate in gambling will lose and will end up with crushing losses. The truth is simple and clear, but people still want to gamble. All are gambling. I studied carefully and discovered the surprising phenomenon that almost everyone gambles, with marriage being the biggest gamble in life. You cannot be sure of its outcome. You can never fully understand the other person's personality, outlook, temperament, character, interests, and other factors, but you are betting your whole youth and your entire life on them. You expect to be happy, joyous, harmonious, and blessed, and expect to remain in love with each other for your lifetime. But then what happens? It is not necessary to analyze the results. The eventual result of all gambling is that the gamblers all lose. Since marriage is a big gamble, the result is of course tragic. Participating in religion and becoming a believer is also gambling. You base your destiny and future by betting on the religious rituals, ideas, practices, and beliefs that you firmly believe are correct. But is your religion the absolute truth? Almost every religion claims that theirs is the only correct belief, but this is only its own wishful thinking. Can it withstand the challenges of facts, science, logic, and spiritual perception? Regarding the three major religions, Christianity, Islam, and Buddhism, they are each contradictory in terms of life and death, so which one is right? After death, are there reincarnations, or merely lying quietly and waiting unconsciously for a final judgment and possible resurrection? If you are not sure, then are you not gambling? Christianity practices monogamy, Islam allows men to have 4 wives, and Buddhists do not marry at all to become monks and nuns. Which one is consistent with the truth of the universe? It is said that there are more than 1,000 political parties in the world. No matter which one you choose to join to become a member of, you will still be doing the equivalent of gambling in a casino. Political parties are contenders for power and interest. As long as you compete and race for them, there will be winners and losers. Anything that has winners and losers is a gamble. Therefore, partisans are also gamblers. Do you have children? If your main purpose of giving birth to children is to bring glory to your ancestors and to protect and support yourself in your old age, then you are gambling. Because whether your children can bring glory to your ancestors or protect and support you in your old age is unknown and produces a questionable future. Is not putting your hard work, sweat, and hope on uncertain outcomes gambling? Are you not a gambler? Do you spend time, energy, and money on interpersonal relationships? If so, you are gambling. Whether it is for benefit and safety or for affection and entertainment, as long as you establish special relationships with others, you are gambling. You cannot guarantee whether the special relationships you have forged will be blessings or curses, or whether you are putting yourself at risk or bringing in noble allies. Do you trade stocks, engage in venture investments, support a company financially? If any of these are yes, then you are gambling because you do not know what any of the outcomes will be. You are just taking risks and thinking wishfully about getting generous returns. You can never be sure whether the results will be counterproductive. How different are these endeavors from going into casinos with the intention of winning big money? Whether it is a battlefield, officialdom, a workplace, business, love, a family, a teaching field, or a relationship, its nature is the same as that of casinos. Once you enter any field, you are gambling. You are a gambler. As long as you invest your time, energy, physical strength, mental energy, and even your future on something that cannot be determined for its developmental direction and future results, then you are gambling and you are a gambler. Wake up now and ask yourself, what on earth are you here for? Are you here for a huge gamble? If you think gambling is fun and exciting, then play as much as you like. Anyway, everything is empty in the end, so why not enjoy it? However, if you know that emptiness is not empty, then you had better think deeply about life. Life Achanuan's viewpoint on euthanasia. Xiefeng, August 26, 2019. Translated by Chinyu and translated by Care. It is extremely difficult for people to live entirely smooth lives. Only a small number of us can do this without ever suffering from diseases. Most of us either die young, are tortured to death by illnesses, die in natural disasters, or are forced to commit suicide by their emotions. Some are killed in the turmoil of war or die from starvation, thirst, exposure, car accidents, and so forth, and are unable to reach the end of their lives naturally and satisfactorily. The most ideal way to end one's life's journey is to go to sleep in good health but not wake up. Another way is to use the Chanyuan meditation. That is, to choose one's day and time of death and then enter meditation to end their journey in this world. Neither method is easy for the public to grasp. Sleeping without waking up is a method that requires a great deal of blessings, and the Chanyuan meditation method requires long-term self-refinement and self-cultivation. So, is there an ideal way for the general public to meet their end? Yes, it is called euthanasia. The general interpretation of euthanasia is to stop medical treatment for patients who cannot be cured so that the patient can die comfortably. Life Chanyuan's explanation is, anyone who does not want to continue their life, but wants to end it voluntarily should be allowed to do so. People should have the right to decide their own life paths. In fact, most people are kidnapped by their reality, the environment, or by their relatives. They live passively, not actively. We should offer the right to choose and decide their own life's ending to everyone. Anyone who has reached the age of 18, despairs of life, and is willing to end theirs should be offered the option to be euthanized. Regardless of their situation, as long as someone still wants to live, regardless of their age or physical condition, they should be treated, given energy, and the hope to live. How much time is enough for someone to live? A century? A millennium? The truth is that for most people, no amount of time is ever enough. Immortality is everyone's wish. However, life is a short journey of life in the mortal world. In the end, everyone has to part with life. No matter how much they love being alive, ending it is inevitable. And since farewells are inevitable, it is only a matter of time before everyone will sooner or later have to say goodbye. We associate closely with our friends and relatives, but no matter how close our relationships are with them, no matter how much we like them, or how much they want to stay with us, we will eventually have to say goodbye to them and leave. We cannot stay with anyone forever, so since we have to leave them, we should find the most suitable time to do so. Is euthanasia not a kind of farewell? Why bother preventing anyone from leaving? It is better to arrange everything leisurely and give a decent goodbye in a cool and ready manner than to end one's life in a hurry with regrets, remorse, anxiety, and fear, without saying goodbye to those of whom we care. Of course, the vast majority of people would not agree with this Chanyuan view of euthanasia, and only those in extreme despair would accept it gracefully. Someone might ask, should we euthanize someone who is 19 years old, healthy, and in the prime of their life with a clear mind and a bright future? It would be the biggest joke ever, but no laughing matter. It would be very cruel. Of course, many people believe that the implementation of euthanasia would be murder if it were not only voluntary but also agreed upon by relatives. But hold on a moment. I have a question. Roughly 1 million people in the world end their lives annually. How many of their relatives have signed on to and agreed with those decisions? Of course not many. So why would anyone need anyone else's consent if they are willing to end their life? If people could only do this with the consent of their relatives, then few would ever be able to. Of course, this kind of euthanasia requires legislation and a national convention. Otherwise, it would be difficult, if not impossible, to implement. I want to say that we can hardly imagine how many people in this world are living in extreme pain and despair. Many feel tired of life and do not want to continue on, but they have to bite the bullet and continue to live because they are kidnapped. Many others are in pain and are being tortured to death, such as those who are lying in hospital beds for long periods of time while incurable. They need to decide for themselves whether they are willing to accept euthanasia and should not require the consent of any relatives. Now that technology is developed, it is possible to video record the patient's words and wishes. In other words, anyone who voluntarily accepts euthanasia can speak their own mind and record it in an environment in which they are free from any duress, coercion, or kidnapping. Without this legally binding video, euthanasia would not be implemented. If a young person wanted to end their life, their relatives might call them selfish, but who is really more selfish, the young one, or the relatives? Actually, I have thought about this. If Life Genuine were to implement euthanasia and hospice care, at least half of the people who want to commit suicide would give up those thoughts, and that number might be saved every year. By the way, it is better to deal with the people after euthanasia in accordance with the arrangement of the Life Genuine funeral system. The more we open up, the easier and simpler things become. The more restrictive we are, the more difficult and complex they become. 认识自己的一道法门. One way to know yourself. Xiefeng, July 6, 2020. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Care. It is fairly easy to understand others, but more difficult to know ourselves. However, when we do not understand ourselves correctly, our lives will be lost, stepped over, and frustrated everywhere. Recently, through my work, I found a method to learn about myself, and you are invited to try it as well. To know ourselves, we must first establish a reference point and compare ourselves to it. Then we can better understand ourselves. Over the past 3 years, I have operated a small hotel in BC, Canada. The nature of the hotel is my 3 sets of large, medium, and small towels, sheets, and quilts are pure white. So once soiled, it becomes next to impossible to restore their original appearances. In contrast, the better one's financial situation is, the cleaner and neater they leave their rooms, and the better they communicate and get along with others. All in all, those who messed things up and could not communicate well were lower middle-class workers, while the more civilized were more intellectual. My conclusion is that a person's situation reflects their education, self-cultivation, and self-restraint, as well as their knowledge, realm, and pattern. Do you want to understand and know yourself? Then look at your current situation because it represents you. If you are very poor, have few close friends and confidants, have trouble getting help from others, and your life is rough and difficult, there must be something wrong with you. And it is not because society is unfair or others are short on love. In Life Genuine, there is one value. The world is faultless. All faults lie within us. Any trials and tribulations that we encounter are reflections of our own consciousnesses. If we want to live a good life, then we must start by transforming ourselves. This is the building of our own soul garden, as advocated by Life Genuine. Never resent or blame others or your society. There is another phenomenon. That is, those who are good at communicating with others have relatively easy and satisfactory lives, but those who are not have more difficult and miserable ones. One can understand and know themselves from the social circle in which they interact with others. If there are no knowledgeable people in your social circle with big views, it shows that you are a commoner and it will be difficult for you to have a bright future. From this analysis, we can derive a useful life experience. That is, that one should always put the improvement of one's education, knowledge, self-cultivation, self-restraint, realm, and pattern first, not rushing to make money, success, to become the best, to glorify your ancestors, or to curry favor with rich and powerful people and celebrities. If you are excellent, then those correspondingly good things will come to you. But if you are not, then do not detest the flies around you. Let yourself be a flower. Butterflies will find you. By extension, when you are faced with natural and man-made disasters such as epidemics, floods, turmoil, and the like, do not blame the greatest creator for being unjust or people for being unkind. All these things are reflections of your human mind and consciousness because you caused and invited them upon yourself. If you want the weather to be favorable, the world to be peaceful, and everyone to be happy and satisfied, then you should first learn to be a decent person, learn how to communicate, always be wary of your thoughts and intentions, and make sure that they are not evil. If you have more negative, passive, and pessimistic emotions, then your lives will become harsher and the world will continue to worsen. Above is a basic method of how to understand and know oneself. The core of this method is the root, quality. That is, if we want everything to be satisfactory, then we must change our roots. Do not envy those whose roots are bad but very flashy. If one's position cannot match their virtue, then disasters will befall them. Flaunt with bad roots, and you will see the results. They must include disasters. 影响人生的8个外在隐形因素. 8 invisible external factors influencing our lives. Xiefeng, May 9th, 2020. Translated by Q and edited by Care. We should be aware of these 8 mysterious and invisible factors that influence our lives. Feng Shui, geomantic omens, gods and deities, grievances and curses of others, ancestral virtues and sins, solar radiation, socio-ecological environments, destiny trajectories, mathematics. Let us examine each one of them in greater detail. Feng Shui mainly refers to one's geographical and atmospheric environments, the veins flowing underground, the humidity or dryness of the climate, whether the air is fresh and its flow is smooth and unobstructed, whether there is sufficient light and the geomagnetic field is comfortable and pleasant, as well as the water quality and the chemical elements contained within, and whether it is alkaline or acidic, and so on. It is really not easy to find a perfect geomantic omen place. The best way to avoid long-term damage to yourself by certain unfavorable factors is to change your living space often. Most chronic diseases are caused by feng shui, and they can be cured after changing one's environment. For example, if people with arthritis who live in humid areas can relocate themselves to places with drier humidities for 3 to 5 years, their arthritis can heal completely. People in my hometown in the thousand-year world never get sick for many reasons, but one of them is that people change their living environments often. This is why I emphasize that Life-Echanu and Celestials must move to another home every 3 years. When there are 256 homes, new oasis for life, on the earth, it will be hard to get sick for a lifetime if you relocate yourself every 3 years. Affection of gods and deities. Everything has spirituality. What we call heaven gods, mountain gods, water gods, earth gods, and so forth are actual gods and deities, and if we worship them in our hearts, then we will have no bad luck. For example, if you want to climb a mountain, pray to it and ask its God for protection, and you will not fall or injure yourself during your climb. If you pray to a river god or deity when crossing its river, then you will cross it safely. If you soothe and comfort the trees, flowers, insects, birds, and beasts where you live, then you will face no misfortune. Other people's grievances and curses are very harmful to life. If you do not believe me, then you should live among people who are full of grievances. It will not only make people lose their fighting spirits, courage, and confidence in their pursuit of better lives, but it will also cause people to become depressed, get sick, and have nightmares. Curses are even more powerful. They are silent harm from their hearts and invisible thought powers. It is also a curse to secretly cut a ground vein or manipulate an ancestor's grave. Curses will lead to the declines and extinctions of families and nations. They will even lead to sudden disasters, so it is best to remain cognizant. Ancestral virtue and sin karma have great impacts on life. An ancestor's virtuous karma can help their descendants to flourish and prosper, but their sin karma can lead them to wither and decline. Therefore, whether our lives are smooth or full of ups and downs, we must consult whether the karma that our ancestors created for us is virtuous or sinful. After learning the answer, we can find a way to remedy it. Otherwise, the trajectory of our lives will not change. Solar radiation. People whose ancestors lived in or near the tropics tend to have darker skin, while those whose ancestors lived closer to either of Earth's poles have lighter skin. This is caused by the amount of ultraviolet solar radiation that is present. We need to be exposed to the right amount for proper vitamin D production, neither too much nor too little. The amount varies with our latitude, and we can often change it to alleviate the damage of insufficient or excess ultraviolet solar radiation. The socio-ecological environment is crucial to the formation of human personalities and consciousnesses. It includes factors such as culture, beliefs, conventions, customs, overall values, and the outlooks on life, and the universe. If you are enclosed in a bad socio-ecological environment for a long time, you will become incapable of distinguishing fragrance from stench. It will be hard for you to know that there are mountains beyond mountains and skies above skies, and you will live very ignorantly. The trajectory of fate is an invisible binding force created by people's previous lives' merits and demerits, as well as an invisible manipulating force. The 18 unmanageable factors of life are an invisible arrangement of the trajectory of fate. Why am I so lucky or unlucky? Why have I met such a noble or unreasonable person? And other such questions are established arrangements along the trajectory of fate. To change that, to resolve or continue your trajectory of fate, you must self-cultivate and self-refine. The influence of mathematics is mysterious. Symmetry and proportion are very important. To be symmetrical and proportional, you must work hard on the math. The figure of the golden section looks beautiful, and this is caused by perfect symmetry and the most appropriate proportions. Symmetry and proportion must follow math strictly. Math is the principle of numbers. The more symmetrical things are, the longer their lifespans, and the more symmetrical a life is, the healthier it is. Once the math falls out of balance, a life will quickly decay and die, and it also becomes easier to suffer from nature. Therefore, how high a house should be, how big its doors and windows should be, how far or close it should be to the neighbor's house, how many sets of clothes and shoes should be stored in its closets, how high its tables, stoves, and windows should be, on which dates you can go out for trips or important meetings should be held, on which date the construction of the house should be started, how many plates, forks, and chopsticks should a family have, how big your house should be, and so on, are all in the math. If the math is suitable, then everything will go well, but if it is not, then everything will go against your will. There are 64 factors that affect people. The permutations and combinations of them are astronomical figures. As a person, it is hard to attend to one thing without neglecting another. The simplest method available is to follow the way of the greatest creator, the path of life. Genuine. 雪峰与年轻人聊聊. Xiefeng chats with young people. Xiefeng. October 22nd, 2020. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Care. After more than 60 years of springs, summers, autumns, and winters, I have some insightful life experiences to share with young people. They may not be correct, but they are just for reference. Life is the perception and experience of life in the human world. The richer that experience is, the deeper its perception is. The deeper that perception is, the clearer its truth is. Therefore, life is about experiences, and only those experiences form the wealth that life possesses. Some of those experiences are frustration, disappointment, failure, despair, love, friendship, kinship, sex, holy love, the spring, summer, autumn, winter, wind, clouds, rain and snow endowed by nature, joy, freedom, happiness, satisfaction, sacredness, solemnity, beauty, infinity, the coming and leaving of predestined relationships on the trajectory of life, and the cycles of causes and effects. When you are young, do not pursue vanity and trends, be engulfed by the trends of the times. Compare yourself with others, or pursue material possessions, such as buying real estate, cars, expensive consumer goods, high-end supplies, and so forth. If you focus on material abundance and possessions, then you are heading towards decadence, corruption, depravity, pain, troubles, and death. Rather, you should spend your time and energy on learning scientific knowledge and skills, how to behave, the teachings of gods, Buddhas, and celestials, and how to enhance the value of your life. Do not study metaphysics or enter religious groups, political groups, or various cultivation groups because they are all problematic. Especially do not learn anything about magical powers, special abilities, or spell powers. I do not even advocate the premature learning of Buddhism, Taoism, or divine law, let alone supernatural powers. Learning is to enrich one's understanding and to improve the quality of their life, not to be an official or make money, glorify and illuminate one's ancestors, or to be outstanding, let alone to build your good fame forever, but to experience life more deeply and to experience fun and wit of life. Why is the most important thing in life to enrich one's understanding and improve the quality of life? You can only understand it if you look at and study stones. From diamonds, emeralds, rubies, sapphires, opals, aquamarine, tourmaline, moonstones, and garnets, to pebbles, each of their values are completely different. Although we cannot always be human diamonds and emeralds, we cannot let ourselves become the pebbles among people. The more precious the stones are, the more embedded they are into the most sacred places, and the rougher they are, the more they are laid under people's feet. If someday someone can become a god, you will know that the purer their quality of life, the more they will live in a free and perfect world, and the lower their quality of life, the more they will live in a world of control and dilapidation. When you are young, do not waste your mind on building relationships with people because the cost of doing so is very high. Many people spend their precious time, energy, and even wealth on maintaining relationships, but it is not worth it. As long as they are people, they will part ways with you. Lasting relationships are almost impossible to maintain. Following predestined relationships is best, but not maintaining them deliberately. True confidence will appear on your road to strive forward instead of in the relationships you maintained by racking your brains. If you are a precious gemstone, then you will not need to establish relationships deliberately because people will chase you. If you are a cobblestone, then no matter how you rack your brains to establish relationships, people will abandon you. We are currently living in the era of network information, and the biggest characteristic of it is impetuousness. People are impetuous, markets are impetuous, society is impetuous, religion and political parties are all impetuous. There are bubbles everywhere, and they will burst at any time. Therefore, learn to calm down and think and study those that can last longer. According to my observation and analysis, 95% of the internet's content, including social media, is rubbish. Therefore, if you invest your time and energy with social media on the internet, you will be collecting rubbish and you will be dealing with rubbish. In the long run, you will become a garbage collector. There are three major wealths in life: material wealth, spiritual wealth, and soul wealth. When you are young, you should pursue soul wealth first, then spiritual wealth, and material wealth last. If you have a healthy body, that is equal to having material wealth. It can be said that health is the first material wealth of life. Thus, you should take good care of your body, do not stay up late, do not smoke, avoid drugs and alcohol, do not overeat, but eat in an orderly manner, and do not do so indiscriminately to satisfy your appetite. Your first priority in life is to honor your parents. How your parents treat you is their business, but as children, do what children should do. There are many ways to do this. The most important is to not let your parents worry about you and rush about and overwork for you. You may not be able to provide superior material wealth for your parents, but at least do not let your parents work hard to provide you with superior material conditions, because you are a human, not a pig, and your parents raised you to adulthood. After you have reached the age of 18 years, you have to walk on your own, and you can no longer rely on your parents for your survival. In this way, even if you cannot afford to support your parents in their old age and bury them, at least you will not have too much guilt in your heart, and in the eyes of heaven, you will be regarded as a reasonable person, a person who can be blessed. I have compiled a book, Treasures of Classical Advice, which is the essence of the wisdom and experiences of human sages. It is worth reading. I hope that you will read it when you are free, because you will definitely benefit from it. 共产主义，劳苦大众的唯一幸福之路. Communism is the only way to happiness. For the toiling masses. Xiefeng. November 20th, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Care. Communism is actually sharing, and the higher the degree of